Yo, sup, Django here. In anticipation of The Last of Us Part 2 releasing soon, I decided to play through the original game in hopes of achieving the coveted Platinum Trophy. In this review, I'm going to be covering the main story as well as the Grounded DLC, but I'm not going to be covering the multiplayer in this one. However, I will preface by letting you know that there will not be any plot spoilers in this review. And with that said, let's get into it. All footage used in this video was streamed over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Django9555, 1935s. Like I said, I won't be discussing plot spoilers, but I will be using gameplay segments from all parts of the game. So if that's something you're not looking for, then go ahead and click out. At the time of writing this review, The Last of Us will have turned 7 years old in 1 month and 9 days. It's really been that long. I mean, I still remember going to the GameStop in order to pick up the game because it wasn't considered a big enough release in order to have a midnight release itself. In fact, one of the employees who was opening the store that day gave me a GameStop employee shirt for Call of Duty Ghosts because I was second in line. Regardless, let's get back into the review. Back in 2013, The Last of Us was a game that didn't have many people's attention. At the time, Naughty Dog was only known for their Crash Bandicoot games and their Uncharted series. So when they announced The Last of Us at the VGAs in 2011, people were excited, but it was mostly only Naughty Dog fans. It wouldn't be until a few months after the game's initial release that the game would blow up and take the world by storm. So what exactly is so good about The Last of Us? For starters, the story. This is pretty widely debated amongst everyone who's played The Last of Us, but I'm of the mindset that The Last of Us is probably one of the greatest stories told of the last decade. I mean, shit, the game was the first game to ever make me cry. But why? Of course, like I said, there won't be any spoilers, but what makes The Last of Us so good is the chemistry and relationship you get to build with the characters as the story progresses. In a lot of games, the player is thrown into a world where you're presumed to already know the characters that the main characters is friends with, and the game never takes the time to really get to know them. Scattered throughout The Last of Us are character-defining moments that not only test the characters, but also show what lengths they're willing to go to in order to survive. There are also small, nuanced moments sprinkled throughout the game where characters can just talk to each other. Oh my god, here we go.
Ready?
You gonna be okay with this?
Yeah, not a problem.
You're doing a good job. I figured you should know that.
I won't let you down with this.
Looking back on it from the perspective of playing it for the first time, The Last of Us felt like a really long game. But, like previously mentioned, I recently played through the game twice, and my first playthrough took me little under a day to complete, and my second playthrough took me about 4 to 5 4-hour streams on Twitch. In retrospect, it's a pretty quick game, but I can't really see it being any longer. Its pacing hits all the proper beats without ever having a moment that feels like it's dragging on too long or falling too short. Sure, there are levels and chapters in video games that no one likes, but when looked at from an objective point of view, the pacing never feels off. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the story without getting too into spoilers. Now, for the gameplay. When you first start up the game, you're given a couple of options regarding the difficulty of the game itself. However, most of them stay locked until further playthroughs anyways. The offered difficulties are easy, normal, hard, survivor, and grounded. My playthrough was completed on Grounded Plus, which I can discuss a little bit later on, but the game does offer a New Game Plus option upon completing the story multiple times over. The harder the difficulty, obviously the harder the game gets. But specifically pertaining to The Last of Us, harder difficulty means a couple of other things. For example, enemies start to hit harder, ammo becomes harder to come by, and supplies used for crafting are almost all but never seen. The combat itself is pretty easy to grasp onto. You can melee either with your fists or objects in your hands. You can shoot your enemies with a plethora of weapons, or you can sneak and then either shiv or strangle your enemies. However, one of my biggest gripes with the combat is that there are moments scattered throughout the game when it feels like the game is forcing you to engage in combat and go loud, making sneaking not an option. This is especially aggravating when you play on the higher difficulties and ammo materials are so rare to come across. Out of ammo? Better start getting creative.
Hey, how you doing?
Just trying to keep warm.
Well, we went loud, so.
Now, the game has three main enemy types: runners, clickers, and hunters. Runners are, as the name suggests, zombies who can run, but are also able to see and hear as well. In terms of lore, runners are typically newly infected humans. They're pretty easy to kill, as you can either melee, shoot, strangle, or shiv the runners.
Fuck it. That's not good.
Clickers are humans who've been infected for even longer than runners. Unlike runners, clickers are unable to see or hear and rely on echolocation, similar to bats, and are harder to kill. You can either shoot, shiv, or melee in very particular cases.
That actually broke my shiv.
Clickers become even harder on higher difficulties, as it seems as though they're able to detect you easier than before. From my Grounded Plus playthrough, this definitely holds true. However, it seems as though the runners don't change at all through any of the difficulties. Hunters are just straight up humans in various levels scattered throughout the game who can melee and shoot, but can also be meleeed, shot, shivved, or strangled. The hunters are probably the easiest enemy type for a couple of reasons. Firstly, hunters aren't as spontaneous as runners or clickers. They usually have a path that they're set to walk on when they're not engaged in combat. They're also the easiest to kill, as you're allowed to use all means previously mentioned in order to try and kill a hunter. There's also a bunch of firearms for you to use, however I'll leave that for you to discover. Additionally, The Last of Us has a crafting system as well. Scattered throughout the game's levels are materials that you can use in order to craft items that'll help you throughout your journey. For example, you can craft med kits, smoke bombs, nail bombs, shivs, and all other sorts of things that'll help you throughout the game. Similar to ammo, materials become way harder to find on the higher difficulties that you play on. Also hidden throughout the game are pills that you can use in order to upgrade Joel's abilities. You can upgrade anything from max health all the way to shiv durability. You're also able to upgrade weapons with weapon parts that you can also find scattered throughout the levels in the game. Now, unlike craftables, your weapon upgrades and your stat upgrades do carry over whenever you start a new game plus, regardless of what difficulty you're playing. So if you're trying to go for platinum like I was, what I would recommend is you play on normal a couple times in order to completely max out your guns and your stats, and then begin playing on Survivor Plus or Grounded Plus or whatever you please. Because trust me, the Survivor and Grounded game modes are fucking tough. Fortunately for you, if you are going for platinum, you don't have to beat the game on Grounded and Grounded Plus in order to get the trophy. However, if you're a completionist like me, you're gonna go for it anyways. Scattered throughout the game are also collectibles such as Firefly pendants, weapon manuals, and comics. However, I want to take time to specifically talk about the Grounded DLC difficulty itself. The Grounded DLC came out after The Last of Us was remastered and released on PS4. The DLC added a whole new difficulty, claiming to be even harder than the Survivor difficulty. When I played The Last of Us on PS3, I'd played the game a couple of times on Survivor, which alone is already a challenging feat. It wouldn't be until I wanted to stream the game that I decided I was going to play the game on grounded difficulty. And to be completely honest, I kind of regret it. Sure, I finally beat the game on grounded, but it took way longer than it actually needed to. See, Survivor was a challenge. The skill gap between normal and hard wasn't too noticeable. Sure, the enemies hit a little bit harder, but in terms of ammo and crafting materials, you could still find enough in order to have somewhat of an enjoyable playthrough. Survivor had harder hitting enemies, and ammo and materials became harder to come across. However, Grounded felt more like it was just trying to be hard for the sake of being hard. There were 3 standout moments when I felt like fuck me and I really didn't think I was going to make it past the levels. All 3 parts I was low on health and had absolutely no ammo, no craftables, and no throwables. I was stuck at the part when Joel and Sam are cut off, the sniper sequence immediately after, and the fight at Tommy's Dam. And I stayed stuck here until someone popped into my chat and told me the different ways that I could go about getting past it on grounded. I even had to look up how to speedrun the sniper segment because I was one shot either to the sniper or the hunters who were roaming around the level.
Anthony? Anthony Caliber? Oh shit. 5 days ago. Wow.
And the damn sequence, I just had to try it over and over again until I was finally able to beat it.
I'm not doing this. Bro, I can't stand this game.
What I also found annoying, but somewhat of a necessary part of the game, is when you're engaging in combat and you're charging at a hunter, if they shoot you, you're staggered. However, what's annoying about this feature is that once you're shot and come out of a stagger, the timing is so perfect that the hunter will shoot you almost immediately after, giving you no time to try and recover or run away. Also annoying is how sensitive clickers can be to sound on the higher difficulties. At times, it felt like I would vault a wall and that would be enough in order to pull a clicker's attention. Obviously that makes sense lore wise because clickers use echolocation. However, it still just felt like there were moments when clickers shouldn't have aggroed onto me. And that pretty much covers all of it. At the time of recording, The Last of Us Part 2 is now 29 days away from us. So close, yet so far. Now, because I don't like giving ratings, I'm going to have to give The Last of Us a highly recommend you play. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this interview. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.